Is humanity ready for UFO disclosure? And what does disclosure even mean, really? That's what we're going to dive into today. You see, Nick Pope, who was the Ministry of Defense UFO guy, if you want to put it that way, you might have seen him on Ancient Aliens. I think if you follow the topic, you know who he is. He had a presentation that was put online from a UFO conference that he spoke at. And in this presentation, that's a big part of what he talks about, right? A secret too dark to tell is, I think, the name of the presentation. Link in the description. Please go check it out. And in it, that's basically, right, part of the conversation, amongst many other things he brings up. But more importantly, what does disclosure look like? And are we ready for it, right? So in today's video, I'm going to play two clips from that presentation. I'm also going to play a clip from an interview I did with Nick Pope last year that gives some context to some of the comments he made. And then lastly, I've got a surprise clip for you at the very end, so stay tuned. Let's dive into this, y'all. If you're new to the channel and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button, y'all. I put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And please hit that like button, vetters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think? Are we ready for disclosure? Let's go. All right, here we go. That's not it. Is this? That's a surprise clip. Damn it. I ruined it already here. Okay, first clip. Let's just go. Just going to play it, and we'll deal with it as we go here.
Now, a super predator species can be biological or post-biological, but in a sense, maybe it's more likely to be post-biological, and maybe it's more likely to be programmed initially, though it may have gone beyond its programming. Because you could imagine a program that basically says you will self-preserve and you will replicate, which is kind of what life, biological life, does. So it's not, again, it's not a new thing. And you can imagine that post-biological life would be driven by those same kind of fundamental things. You know, the desire to continue, to go on, to perpetuate, perhaps to reproduce. And that might lead in machine intelligence to an inevitable conclusion. And that inevitable conclusion might be this. If the number one priority is to protect my own existence, one of the real only threats to that existence is the emergence of a greater intelligence that might be more powerful than me and might be able to destroy me. And even if that intelligence has not yet arisen, a program made that way might logically deduce that it makes sense to search the universe for life and then to exterminate that life before it can get to a point where it becomes more powerful than the machine intelligence protecting its own existence. And I know sci-fi authors and filmmakers, of course, have played with that concept. It's not a million miles away from something like Skynet. But there is a certain kind of cold, pure logic about it. And incidentally, I was having this discussion with a very well-placed individual in the AI community who's done government work, including work, you know, related to UAP. And I said, and we were talking about this actually in my TV series After Contact, and we came to the conclusion that everyone's got this idea of the archetypal landing on the White House lawn as being how first contact might arise. One other alternative scenario for first contact is the idea that extraterrestrial AI programs, if they come to Earth, They wouldn't necessarily want to meet our politicians. Who would? Isn't it more likely that they would want to meet or reach out to our AI systems, maybe to see how far they've come along, or maybe post-biological to post-biological to push them over the line of sentience and bring them up and say, hey, us machine intelligence, we should all stick together. We're all essentially the same thing, driven by cold logic. So this leads to the very interesting strategy that one way to watch out for first contact might be, just as cybersecurity people keep a constant eye on computer systems watching for digital fingerprints, it might be that first contact is a digital fingerprint. And it might be that that's how we actually first make contact. And like I say, the secret too terrible to be told might be that extraterrestrial intelligence isn't really interested in us at all. They're interested in our AI systems. And we are, at best, just an irrelevant little sideshow, just another bipedal ape on, but at worst, we are a potential impediment to the development of the true inheritors of life on Earth, and perhaps the true inheritors of all life. Maybe it's one of those universal truths about the universe that there is this inexorable and unstoppable flow from biological to post-biological, and we either embrace it and become part of it, and I don't have time to go into transhumanism and things, but a lot of people are talking about it. Maybe we either embrace it or we go under.
There we go. Sorry, I cut it too early there. So my bonus clip at the end has to do with that post-biological life and something here that Nick Pope is saying. So, but I'll get back to that. So put a pin in that. But what he's talking about here is that, right, the potential that AI would come and make contact with our AI, right? There would be digital fingerprints of first contact, not physical, right? Not a UFO landing on the White House lawn, but, all of a sudden aliens come and open a Twitter account and are like, what up? Like, that would be crazy. Right? Like, how would we know? Why couldn't they do that? Right? And that is a real possibility that we have to consider, that aliens would, come in digitally, right? Through the internet. I mean, are they here right now? Are they watching this? All right. So let's get to, and again, he's making the point that maybe that's one of the secrets that's too terrible to be told, right? Because he gives many reasons for why maybe we're not being told about disclosure, right? And again, define that however you want, because that's going to be different for everybody, whatever you think disclosure is, right? But the idea that we would basically know we're not alone in the universe, just that basic fact. Let's just assume for the sake of this video, that's what disclosure is, right? We realize we're not alone in the universe, whatever that means. There was other life out there besides us here on this planet. And he gives many different reasons, and that's one of them, right? Maybe that's why we're not being told about disclosure, because they figured that out. They've seen digital fingerprints, and, what if they just disclose that, right? They tell, yeah, okay, aliens are here, we're not alone, and they're online. We don't know, can't control it. We don't know what's going on. And they're talking to our AI. That would be crazy, right? Anyway. All right, let's move to the next clip here. Again, I'm just going to play it and we'll go.
People say, when you speak to people in the UFO community and say, are you ready for disclosure? everyone's like, yeah, bring it on. And I get that. But I'm saying that's what disclosure really looks like. A locked door to keep something out, perhaps. And, it's like a thought experiment. If I told you that if you went through that door, there is something that you wouldn't expect here, something really bizarre. A lot of you might go through the door, just to see. If I told you, this is a little thought experiment. If I told you, go through that door, I'll give you $10,000. And behind that door,
Yes.
there is an animal. It could be any animal, and it will be randomly selected by a computer.
I said yes too early.
Who's going to go for it? Well, fine, it could be a butterfly or whatever, but it could be a tiger. So that's kind of disclosure. Everyone's kind of saying, bring it on, we're ready. And I'm not saying, you can't have it, but I'm saying think very carefully about what it might be, what it could be. And I've put some possibilities out there, but there are many, many other possibilities. And particularly when you come to the unknown unknowns, there are probably an infinite amount of possibilities that we just couldn't conceive of. I mean, when the former astronomer royal in the UK was talking about extraterrestrial intelligence, he said, us trying to understand it, if it is more advanced than us, and bear in mind, in a universe nearly 14 billion years old, there might be civilizations out there with a billion-year head start on us. There might be things out there that we couldn't conceive of. And the astronomer royal, Sir Martin Rees, said it would be like trying to explain quantum physics to a chimpanzee. Only this time, we're the chimpanzees.
I mean, that's true. Right? Let's be real. That is true. So before I get to this next clip of my interview with Nick Pope from last year, let's, break that down a little bit, right? What he just talked about. That idea of, okay, yeah, you go in this room, but you don't know what you're going to get, right? Could be any animal, right? Let's just assume that. That thought, I mean, that is true, right? We don't know what disclosure, what this really is, this phenomenon. You hear so many different stories, so many explanations, so many theories, speculations, right? Everything is out there. There's so much. Almost like everything has been thought of what this could be. And as I was listening, it reminded me of something. Because the idea is, well, maybe humanity's not ready for this, right? Because what if it's this scary thing? How are they going to deal with it, right? But most of humanity believes in a higher power or that there's more than us. The majority of humanity, right? And if we just look at American statistics, I don't know it exactly, but I remember it being somewhere around 60% of Americans, sort of believe in aliens and UFOs and that sort of thing, right? Like here on the planet, not just believing in aliens, period, right? The idea that we're not alone. Most people genuinely believe we're not alone, right? But it started getting me think about, well, in filmmaking, there are theories, right? Like, let's take Jaws for an example. Steven Spielberg, right? Friend of the UFO community, speaking of. His first film, before Close Encounters, where he spoke about, they were having problems with the shark and the mechanics of the shark, right, in that movie. So he had to find a way to still keep filming. And what did he do? He didn't show the shark very much, right? He left it to what? your imagination, right? And in horror, especially horror films, and in Jaws, right? That's it. Your imagination does more damage than the actual truth, right? The monster in a movie is never as scary as what you imagined it, right? And that's why films that play off that imagination do so much better if they do it right? Because our imagination can run wild, and that's scarier, that unknown. So I would argue that no matter how scary the truth of disclosure is, the monster, if you will, it's better we just see it. So I don't buy into that the humanity's not ready, regardless of the outcome. You know? Regardless of the outcome of it, we deserve the truth. No matter what. And I think that monster is better seen than unseen, and our imagination, pardon me, it runs wild. It's even scarier. So, and that brings me to the next clip here of my interview with Nick Pope, because at the end of that conference, he brings up something that it clicked for me. Oh, we talked about that in my interview. And I think it is when he initially started to have these thoughts. And I'm just going to play the clip, and then we'll discuss it.
I mean, if the pandemic that happened with COVID is any indication of how the world will handle something like that, that worries me. Just to be honest, right?
Yeah, I think that's a whole nother conversation. But
Sure.
yes, I have actually been thinking about this quite recently, that before COVID, when you talked about the alien issue, a lot of people said, oh yeah, we can handle it. There wouldn't be panic in the streets.
Yeah.
After COVID, and more to the point, the reaction, the hysteria, I'm not so sure. So I think, I mean, that's a whole separate interview, but COVID should lead us to rethink the question of whether at a societal level we are ready for this, because the lessons of COVID don't point in that direction necessarily.
Makes a great point, and we didn't get into it further. But in the interview, or in the conference link that I put in the description, the clips I've just shown right before, he talks more in depth about it, right? About this COVID idea, right? So clearly he put more thought into it, and it was something I brought up because it's something I thought about as well, and I'm sure a lot of people have thought about that. Hey, wait a second, how are we going to handle disclosure? Look how we handle COVID, right? How are we going to handle the thought of, we're not alone? Well, I do think they're two different things. One is, quite literally a virus, right, that spread. And people will argue over till the day we die over how we handle that, right? And then everyone's on different sides of the fence, and, everyone's got different opinions. They've changed. New data comes out, however you feel about it. I'm not even getting into that. That's not what this is about. But I would argue that a knowledge of something is just different in that sense, right? How we would handle it. Because the reason COVID became such an issue is because it interrupted your life, quite literally, right? There were laws put in place, lockdowns, right? Curfews, right? Whatever it may be, right? Vaccinations, all these things that got pushed on us, right? All over the world, wherever you were. That's different than if they gave disclosure and then said, you got to lock down, then yeah, it's going to be a big issue. But I think if they're just like, hey, we're not alone, and you just keep living your life, I don't think that knowledge is going to have the same effect. So I don't think it's a good comparison, even though I initially personally used to think it was. But in prep for this video and thinking about it more, I don't think it's, I think there's some parts that may be relative to it, but I think it is different. right? Again, it just depends how you define disclosure when you hear that. And when people are talking about it, they don't really define it themselves when they're telling you. So there's a lot, your imagination runs wild of what that disclosure means. Does disclosure come with evidence or just a press release from the White House or whatever, right? The UN. Or is it come with a UFO? And how much do we get to see that UFO? Does it come with a body? How much detail do we get about the body, right? Do we learn about different events, right? Like, do they confirm certain stories we've heard, right? To what point do we get that disclosure? Right? Think of it like a cake. Do we just get to, like, stick our finger in the icing and get a little taste? Or do we get a slice of this thing? Do we get the whole cake? Like, what are we talking about here? Who knows, right? And what that means. And I think there's some confusion there too, because expectations, what expectations we set for ourselves, what we set for other people, what we set for people in leadership. And it's hard. We're not on the same page there. That's just politics in general, but, it fits with this too. So I don't know. But I get Nick's point. And again, I brought it up initially as well. I used to think that as well. But the more I think about it, I'm not so sure that it coincides. But whatever. What do you think? Love to hear. All right. My last clip, bonus clip here. At the beginning, when Nick was talking about AI and post-biological life, right? How we would, take it a little step further, right? And become AI, essentially, right? What happens after biological life? Now, this is a theory I've had for a long time, and I've heard very few people talk about it. But when Nick started talking about it, he was really saying some things that I've been saying for a long time. And I finally made a video months ago, and I posted it talking about my new possible theory of the UFO phenomenon, and I called it digital alien theory because, and you know what? I'm just going to let myself explain it, and then we'll get into almost, here we go. Well, basically, the theory is this, all right? Once humanity, eventually a civilization, let's put it this way, eventually a civilization or an advanced intelligence will eventually shed, in my opinion, the biological, physical body and transcend into a digital realm, a digital universe, and become digital, right? This whole other existence that's out there. That's why we don't see spaceships flying around, because advanced civilizations they're in a whole different world. They're in this digital realm, this digital universe that exists out there. You can't just see with the naked eye. I mean, think a video game character in a video game, right? Where is he exactly? He's in this other realm. He's little, electrical currents firing back and forth inside of this, motherboard, right? Or whatever. Great pause, Patrick. Basically, the point is, I'll put a link in the description. You can go watch me babble for 16 minutes about that. It's just the idea that we would shed our biological bodies and move into a different realm, a different universe, totally. Right? I think advanced species go there, which is why we don't see spaceships flying around space. That's what I meant, like around space, right? Just like Star Trek or something. Like, oh, dude, why is there no just life everywhere flying around space? Because I think when you get so advanced, you realize the digital body is so much better, cleaner, and more effective, and endless, and control. It's like physical body. I mean, it could be crushed by a rock instantly. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, your heart could stop. Like, there's so many things can just end you. Right? It's a miracle to even be born. It's a miracle to be born in a certain place with a certain, it's a miracle for a lot of things. So just always thought that. And Nick brought it up, and I thought that was interesting. I'm sticking with that, man. I do think there's something to that theory of digital aliens. Just biological life, post-biological life moving in that direction, right? And if they did visit Earth, they would come electronically, right? Because that's how they travel, right? And they would come into, I mean, that's what I said. I even had a movie idea of like, an alien invasion coming digitally. Not with big spaceships, not like Independence Day with the big UFO coming, forget all those movies that are like that. A digital invasion, Anyway, just cool to hear, someone else talk about it because I haven't really heard that or many people talk about it. And I'm, whatever, Anyway, I find it interesting. So again, links in the description. Tell me what you think. Are we ready for disclosure? What does disclosure mean? Can we handle it? Is COVID a good example of what humanity's reaction would be to, discovering that knowledge and potentially more, right? Yeah, curious. And what do you think about this digital alien thing? I don't know. All right, y'all. We'll see you on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all.